My world turned upside down when my dad collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. With him in such a critical state, there was no question. I had to be by his side. Regrettably, it meant canceling our long-awaited honeymoon. My husband urged me to go alone, but the idea seemed surreal. Who embarks on a honeymoon solo? In the midst of my turmoil, an unexpected figure appeared. My father-in-law. The very person who was supposed to be in the hospital stood before me, leaving me bewildered. "Why are you here, father-in-law?" I asked, my mind spinning. But let's rewind a bit. My name is Sarah, and for the past 5 years, I've shared my life with Mark. This summer, he finally popped the question, but those 5 years felt like an eternity. We'd often visit each other's parents, discussing our future with enthusiasm. However, Mark's reluctance to commit began to gnaw at me. It took an ultimatum before he finally proposed. With wedding plans in full swing, all that remained was our honeymoon. Mark planned to spend the day with his parents while I had dinner with mine, who had traveled from out of town. As I packed for our Italian adventure, I sent Mark a message, expressing my excitement. Yet silence greeted me in return. Assuming he was exhausted from the day's events, I brushed it off and retired for the night. I hoped fervently that Mark wouldn't oversleep for our flight the next day. Despite feeling a bit nervous, exhaustion eventually led me to drift off to sleep. The next morning, my slumber was abruptly interrupted by a call from Mark. "Sarah, something terrible has happened," he began hurriedly the moment I answered. My heart sank as he delivered the shocking news. My dad had collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. The implications hit me like a ton of bricks. "You'll have to go on our honeymoon alone today," he continued. I couldn't help but let out a bewildered exclamation. "What do you mean?" "But your father was so full of life at our wedding yesterday," I protested. "I'm as shocked as you are, Sarah. I'm staying by his side, but you should go ahead without me," Mark insisted. I refused to entertain the idea. "Don't be ridiculous. If your father's ill, there's no way I can leave for our honeymoon. Who on earth goes on a honeymoon alone?" I pressed Mark for details about which hospital his father was taken to, but he stubbornly refused to disclose it. "If I told you, you'd come to visit, wouldn't you?" he reasoned. Dad insisted that I should still let you go. Please respect his wishes. Feeling torn, I asked if he planned to join me once his father was feeling better. "Of course, I'll come as soon as things are settled here," he assured me. But I couldn't shake the ominous feeling. "Don't jinx it by saying as soon as things are settled," I cautioned. Mark cut me off abruptly. "Please let me handle things here and proceed to Italy as planned. I'm about to arrive at the hospital, so I won't be able to pick up your calls. Talk to you later." With that, he hung up before I could respond. I attempted to call Mark back immediately, but it seemed like he had turned off his phone. With no means to reach him and lacking the name of the hospital, I couldn't rush to my father-in-law's side. Feeling utterly helpless, I was suddenly startled by the doorbell. As I opened the door, a wave of disbelief washed over me. Standing before me was my father-in-law, the very person who was supposed to be in the hospital after an emergency transport. "Your legs, they're okay," he remarked casually, oblivious to my confusion. Perplexed, I questioned him, making sure I wasn't seeing a ghost. "Are you feeling all right?" "Oh, I may have had a bit too much to drink at the wedding yesterday, but I felt fine this morning." "Definitely sober now," he replied. "I came to pick you up after dropping Mark off." "Dropping Mark off?" I echoed, my confusion deepening. "Yes, for your honeymoon. I dropped him off at the station, but then I realized I should have come to pick you up too." "Let me take you to LaGuardia," he explained. My mind reeled with confusion. My father-in-law, supposed to be in the hospital, and Mark, supposed to be accompanying him there, now dropping off our son at the station. Nothing seemed to add up. Then it clicked. "Wait, you just said you'd take me to LaGuardia, but our honeymoon is in Italy." "Oh yes, that's what I thought too." I was surprised, he admitted. When Mark dropped the bombshell this morning, announcing a last-minute change of plans for our honeymoon to Alaska, my mind became a whirlwind of questions. Alaska, it seemed out of the blue, leaving me baffled. "He left a note in the car," my father-in-law explained, producing a post Mark had left behind. It detailed an inn in Alaska and a flight from LaGuardia to Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport. Suddenly, the pieces started to fit together. "Could you please take me to LaGuardia?" I requested, a surge of realization flooding over me. "Thank you so much." During the journey, I couldn't shake the feeling of apprehension. Mark's actions, his sudden change of plans, all seemed suspicious. As we approached the airport, I mulled over my suspicions. Would I find the truth at the airport? Thanking my father-in-law, I ventured into the airport. Near the check-in counter for the flight specified on the post, I spotted Mark. But he wasn't alone. Arm in arm with a young woman, they appeared intimate, effortlessly selecting drinks together. It hit me like a ton of bricks. He had been cheating on me all along. The affair likely began while we were still together, explaining his reluctance to commit. And now, not only cheating, but he had the audacity to embark on our planned honeymoon with his mistress. I stood my ground, facing Mark as he was about to leave the store with drinks in hand. His expression was one of shock upon seeing me. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" he stammered. "Right back at you. Why are you, who should have been at the hospital taking care of your father, at a place like this?" I countered. Mark stumbled for an explanation. "Ah, I just came to do some shopping." "Shopping? You came all the way to LaGuardia just to buy a bottle of water?" I raised an eyebrow skeptically. Mark attempted to maintain his composure. Yeah. Dad was begging for some airport water." "That's funny you say that because I was just with your father," I revealed. "He came to pick me up in his car, seemed to be doing great, which was a big surprise." Mark persisted with his falsehoods, claiming his father's sudden recovery. As I listened, disbelief washed over me, and I resolved to uncover the truth. "Who is this woman?" I demanded, gesturing to the woman beside him. "Where were you two planning on going?" Mark hesitated before concocting another tale. "Well, she's the nurse who was in charge of Dad. We're on our way to check out a rehabilitation facility for him in Alaska." His excuse fell flat, leaving me dumbfounded. Before I could respond, a voice interrupted from behind. "My what?" I turned to find my father-in-law standing there, surprising us both. "Father-in-law, I thought you headed home," I exclaimed. "I sensed something was off with you, Sarah, so I decided to park the car and follow you. It seems it was the right choice." With his father before him, Mark, realizing his lies weren't working, became visibly suspicious. In response to his behavior, my father-in-law asked sternly, "So, who is this woman?" Mark began to fumble for words, but the woman beside him broke the silence. "I'm Amy, Mark's girlfriend," she declared. Mark swiftly covered her mouth, his panic evident. "Hey, what are you saying? You have to speak clearly." My father-in-law intervened, his tone firm. "Mark, you don't love your wife. Hurry up and get a divorce with her." Mark's attempt to silence Amy failed. "Wait, just be quiet." "Why should I? You promised to leave your wife to be with me. Isn't that why you chose me over her today?" Amy shot back. "That's because you threatened me," Mark confessed. "You said if I don't go to Alaska with you today, you'll expose our relationship." The truth laid bare. I spoke coldly. "So, in other words, you were having an affair with that woman." Amy glared at me and retorted, "It's not an affair. Mark and I are serious about each other. He never wanted to marry you." By this point, I didn't even feel like arguing. "That's fine. Do as you please." Leaving them behind, my father-in-law and I exited the airport. It was 5 days later when Mark returned home. The doorbell rang, and I spoke to him through the intercom. "Sarah, I can't unlock the door. Can you open it for me?" "Oh, about the lock? You changed it. Why would you do something like that without telling me?" I demanded, frustration evident in my voice. "I don't like the idea of a stranger having a spare key to my home." "A stranger? Are you talking about me?" Mark questioned, confusion clouding his expression. "Who else would I be talking about?" I retorted. "I've already prepared the divorce papers, so just quickly sign them." "Wait a minute, let me in first. We can talk after that," Mark pleaded. Keeping the door chain on, I reluctantly passed the divorce papers through the crack. "There's nothing for us to talk about. Once you sign the papers, can you leave immediately?" "Don't be so angry. I've decided to break up with Amy," Mark announced. "What do you mean?" I asked, skepticism lacing my tone. "She's terrible. I agreed to go to Alaska because she threatened to expose our relationship, and all she did was complain that the inn was old-fashioned and the weather was bad. It wasn't fun at all. So I clearly told Amy I have no intention of divorcing my wife." "Please break up with me," Mark explained hastily. I couldn't care less whether you and that girl break up or not. The only choice I have is a divorce, even if you don't agree," I replied sternly. "Don't say that. Are you angry because we couldn't go to Italy?" "Well, it's a little late, but shall we go now?" Mark suggested. "Are you out of your mind? How can you even suggest that?" I exclaimed. I was wrong to think that I could have a reasonable conversation with you for even a second. There's no way a man who cancels his honeymoon and goes on a trip with his mistress has a reasonable thought process. Sign the divorce papers right here, right now, and also sign this document. I handed him another document through the crack. What is this document? He inquired. It's a written agreement for the payment of alimony and the cancellation fee for our honeymoon. I had it prepared through a lawyer while you were away on your trip, I explained calmly. I'm saying I don't want a divorce. You're the one who wants a divorce, so why on earth do I have to pay alimony? I'm saying I want to give us another shot, Mark argued. Seriously, there's a limit to how much common sense you can ignore. It's evident that infidelity comes with consequences like alimony. The decision to start over or not isn't yours to make, considering you're the one who cheated. And what's this cancellation fee about? I countered. We don't get a travel fee refund because we canceled our trip on the day. Since it was you who caused the cancellation, it's only right that you pay for all of it, isn't it? I told you to go alone. Not going was your decision, I explained firmly. How could I possibly go on a honeymoon alone? Not only that, but you also lied about your father being critically ill to cover up your affair. There's no way I could have gone in that situation, Mark argued. Well, I really wanted to go to Italy with you too, but I was threatened by Amy and had no other choice. You wouldn't want your husband to lose his job because he's exposed at work, would you? Mark continued, defending himself. She threatened to expose you at work? Yeah, that's right. If she says she's going to do it, she will. It's all Amy's fault, Mark insisted. Surely Amy does have a kind of vibe where you can't predict what she might do once she sets her mind to it. Considering she even declared, I'm his girlfriend directly to his wife, she must be quite a wild one, I mused aloud. In fact, I was relieved. With an opponent like Amy, Mark would self-destruct even if I didn't do anything. All that was left to do was somehow get him to sign the divorce papers, I concluded, pretending to be worried. Deliberately, I questioned him. Hey, are you sure it's okay for you to be here? What do you mean? Mark responded, puzzled. You broke up with Amy, right? Wasn't she angry? I probed further. Of course she was angry, but I'm done with her, Mark assured me. What? You might be fine, but what about Amy? Given her personality, I wouldn't be surprised if she storms into your office and exposes you, I warned. Indeed, that would be disastrous. I need to go to the office and stop Amy. Sarah, please pass me my company key card, Mark requested urgently. I pulled out Mark's company key card from his drawer and showed it to him. Yeah, that's the one, he confirmed, reaching for it. Quickly, I shook off Mark's hands as he tried to take it through the gap in the door. I'll give you the key card in exchange for your signature on the divorce papers and the payment agreement for the bill. With this proposal, Mark would likely agree and sign. Have you decided? You better hurry. Amy may beat you to the office, I urged. All right, Mark relented reluctantly, signing all the documents and passing them through the gap in the door. Here, this is good enough, right? Hurry up and give me the key card. Once I handed over the key card, Mark dashed off towards the office. I went to the courthouse to submit the divorce papers and handed the signed payment agreement to my lawyer. It was a relief that at least the financial matters had been sorted out. The next day, I received a frantic call from Mark. Hello? Ah, Sarah, what do you want? We are legally strangers now. We have nothing to talk about. Mark snapped. Wait, don't hang up on me, Mark pleaded desperately, leaving me feeling a little curious about what happened. I decided to listen to this story. So, what do you want? I inquired. I was called by the board when I got to the office today. Everyone knows I had an affair, even though I got ahead of Amy. Isn't that weird? Mark began. That's because I told them. I confess. What? You told the board? Mark's surprise was evident. Yes, I felt sorry for them because they came to our wedding, but we got divorced so soon. You seemed busy with Amy, so I decided to explain the reason for our divorce to our guests, I explained. Yes, you mean not just the board? You told everyone at my office? Mark's disbelief grew. Yes, when I told them my husband preferred a cheatcation over our honeymoon. Everyone was appalled. But how am I supposed to face everyone at work going forward? I questioned. You don't have to hide your true self anymore. Isn't that a good thing? Mark attempted to reason. Don't mess with me. You ruined my life, I retorted. I should be saying that to you. I wish I could reclaim the 5 years I wasted on someone like you. Mark responded, defeated. When I raised my voice, he had nothing more to say. Why don't you just be with Amy? If her feelings for you are so strong, wouldn't she support you even if you quit your job? I suggested. No way. Nothing good happens when I'm with that woman. The only one who can support me is you, Sarah, Mark pleaded. Nothing good happens when I'm with you. If you want support, you should think about other people's feelings a bit more before you act, I remarked. Yeah, I truly regret it. So let's try again, Mark proposed. No chance. How about reflecting, turning over a new leaf, and getting back into the dating scene? Oh, and maybe find a job first, I suggested. Sarah, don't abandon me. You're the one who betrayed me first, Mark pleaded. You'll just have to live with your regret, I replied, ending the call abruptly. It seems Mark returned to his parents' house to borrow some money a few times, but my father-in-law, who had been made out to be gravely ill without him knowing, and moreover, was used as an excuse for Mark's infidelity, was furious. Eventually, he cut ties with Mark. Mark found it increasingly uncomfortable to be at his company and ended up quitting his job. Job hunting didn't go well, and it seems he's barely making a living by working part-time at a convenience store. On the other hand, I moved into a new home with the alimony from Mark. Even though I changed the door locks, it felt uncomfortable living in a place my ex-husband knew about. Mark's parents helped me move. They probably saw it as a way to atone for their son's misdeeds. I still occasionally chat and have meals with them. I won't get back the 5 years I spent with Mark, but I'm going to find a better man next time.